Welcome to Alternative Investments Chat,
where we demystify the world of alternative investments and financing for entrepreneurs and investors alike.
With these discussions, we hope you're more empowered to unlock opportunities in your business or portfolio. I'm Erin.
And I'm Erica. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Alternative Investments Chat. Today, we're talking about a little bit of a unconventional but surprising and very profitable asset class, parking investments.
Parking investments.
Parking.
Yes. So it might not sound flashy, right?
No.
I'm thinking a lot about empty pavement lots, but parking assets are quietly becoming a sought-after addition to some alternative investment portfolios. Very interesting. And they can offer recurring income potential, which is what we care about most,
Of course.
arguably.
My wallet and my wallet only.
Yeah. Low maintenance and even inflation protection can be available in some cases as well. So what is parking as an investment just in general?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Tell me. I must know.
You must know. At its core, investing in parking means owning or leasing spaces like this could be single spots, those surface lots that I just mentioned, or entire garages, and earning income from the people who need a place to park.
Got it.
It's a form of real estate investing, but without many of the headaches of the terrible T's, which we
remember those.
Yes, we remember those. Our tenants, toilets, and trash. Boo.
Sometimes they're all rolled into one.
Yeah.
If you get a really bad tenant.
Exactly.
Okay, so according to a 2022 IBIS World Report, not to be confused with another acronym with a few of those letters, the U.S. parking industry actually generated over $10.4 billion in revenue. That's a lot of money for just, a parking lot, if you ask me, with a stable growth in those key metro markets. So the asset's simplicity, along with its ongoing demand in dense areas, have been really appealing to both institutional and those individual investors. The parking issue is one that's close to our hearts here in Phoenix.
Yes.
So the city of Phoenix, for those who don't know, is both densely populated, but really incredibly sprawling. I always say it's like a big city that's super spread out.
Yes. Not this way, but big this way.
Yeah, the way that you don't want to go if you're a person, right? But our public transportation, it has definitely improved over the years, but it's still where a city is driving is king. You can't really, it's 5,000 degrees outside,
and
especially during the summer.
Yeah.
So no one wants to walk, but you really don't have the option to walk anywhere anyway. So when we talk about driving is king, what does that actually mean? So once people arrive at their destination, it simply means they're going to need somewhere to put the car that they came in, right? And it seems that there are never, ever enough parking spaces, if you ask me.
Yes, for sure. I think that everyone's big complaint here is that you have to drive everywhere and then there's nowhere to park once you get there.
Yeah.
But the frustration has definitely been heard by the city of Phoenix. And earlier this year, just some fun local news, a new app was actually launched to help Phoenicians and tourists alike park easier. It's called Park Phoenix or Park PHX, and was launched in February of this year to help easily guide users to available parking spots, and they can see how much those parking spots actually cost. This app features both the city-owned lots as well as privately owned lots, so you can see everything in one spot.
Yeah.
And you can even pay from your phone, so you don't have to go and hunt down one of those pay machines.
Yeah.
And I think that this little bit of news here really illustrates the need for parking and how much people really care about having an easy and efficient parking experience overall.
Yeah. Well, I know that's something that I definitely look for. There are times if I go shopping, sometimes I'll try to run and do an errand on my lunch break. If I circle the parking lot and can't find a close enough park or can't find a park at all, it's like abandoned cart and I just run away.
Ditch.
And I'm like, never mind. I'll come back at a different time. That's how important parking is to people here in Phoenix. At least I know for my personal experience. So what we're going to do, we're going to zoom out a little bit for a second here and talk about why this asset class is actually growing in popularity.
Yeah.
So we've got that urban density, which is increasing. So especially in Sunbelt cities like Nashville, Atlanta, Austin, places like that, just it means more people and more cars. We need more parking spots.
Yeah,
Plain and
exactly.
simple. Can't just like leave it on the side of the road. Although sometimes I feel like I'm just going to do that one day. Then we have remote and hybrid work models have shifted commuter patterns. We don't really think about this, but with the pandemic, we did start to see this a little bit more. So it's opening up suburban parking opportunities, meaning so a lot of times during those times back in the good old days, pre-pandemic, is parking was normally needed for concentrated in downtown areas where people would commute to work.
Right. Big city buildings.
Yeah,
or
you
whatever.
go and you park at your job and you do your job and you drive home, right?
Yeah.
So now more people are spending time in their neighborhoods, aka that hybrid work. They don't have to go to work. So we need more parking spots there to accommodate that shift.
Right.
And then we also have new tech, like EV charging, is transforming simple lots into smart assets. So I know in our previous episode when we talked about luxury cars, and I really gave it my all because I love cars and I love gas cars. I actually now drive an electric vehicle,
Yes,
which is
you do.
hilarious. And when I told everybody that I bought an electric car, everyone's like, wait, you went full electric? And I'm like, I did. I can't believe it. But honestly, I love it. And if there is a parking spot that I can actually charge my car, I'm definitely looking for one of those spots.
Right. It's a super added bonus for you.
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Here is something that's interesting. The number of parking spots between 2008 and 2017 decreased actually by 7%. Interesting,
Yeah.
right? So this data is synthesized from the census by Forbes writer Brian Spear. So if the need for parking actually increased, why did the spots decrease?
Yeah, explain. That doesn't make sense.
So parking facilities in some U.S. cities were actually turned into housing, hotels, maybe a hospital, other buildings or zones that were more pressing to the needs of the people that were living there.
Okay,
you
that
have
makes
increased
sense.
people coming to that area. Parking, while important, you need a place for these people to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Or to live. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But what this means is that there's an opportunity potentially to right size the amount of parking spots with the amount of people.
Yeah.
So another reason why this could potentially be a good thing to invest in at the moment. And another reason why parking has become more popular is because of the technology aspect of it. There's platforms like Parkable and Neighbor that are making fractional ownership in parking possible and more accessible.
Yeah.
So Parkable, for example, allows people to list parking spots that they own for customers to use them. And this could be anything from extra parking spots at a church. So if a church needs to make some extra income, or if you own an entire lot and you want to list it, it just helps with the management because you don't have to install the meter and whatever. Everything's done through the app. And some parking lot investment syndicates actually report cash on cash returns between 6 and 12%.
It's not bad.
Which is pretty high. Definitely, more attractive than some of these traditional investments that people invest in. Though, of course, the returns definitely vary on location, management, and market demand. There's no guarantees, as we know.
That dreaded G word that we always talk about. But I'm really glad that you actually brought up those platforms like Parkable and Neighbor, because I actually have a cool story about a simpler company called Air Garage.
Okay.
Not air guitar, Air Garage. So this is another piece of local history here in Arizona. So Air Garage was actually founded by 3 ASU students in 2017 after they sought to find solutions for where the heck they can park so they can get to class on time, right? All across the U.S., or not U.S., the ASU parking,
Right.
the campus. The campus, if you've never been down here, again, it's a very sprawling campus. It's not very walkable. The university that I attended I could walk from my dorm room to the other side of campus and back in like 10 minutes. It wasn't very large.
The Tempe campus is not that way, and really none of the other campuses are because there are 4 campuses.
Yeah. So what happens if you have one class at one campus, one class, you've got to drive.
Yeah.
Which means you got to park. We all know how college students are. Last minute, they're trying to,
or take the shuttle, but
the last thing they want to do is try to find a parking spot.
Of course.
So anyway, so you want to think of this air garage as like an Airbnb, but for parking spots. So anyone who has that extra parking spot can list it on the app and make some extra cash.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Again, I bet no one ever really thought about that. You're leaving cash in your driveway, just chilling.
Yeah, exactly.
Go out there and pick that up.
Exactly.
And then this startup received actually $12.5 million in funding from a Silicon Valley investor in 2021. And since then, they've actually expanded in cities across the United States.
Yeah.
Because Arizona is not the only place that has a large sprawling campus and a parking issue. That's for sure.
Exactly. So actually Air Garage was rolled out on the ASU campuses when I was going to college there. And I remember thinking what a cool idea that it was. Student parking at ASU is so expensive. And Air Garage now services beyond student campuses, just regular parking as well. But the cheaper lots are usually uncovered and super far away from campus, which is super unappealing when it's 120 degrees out. And like you said, the campus is sprawled. So now you're walking all of a sudden 2 miles.
Yeah, to get to class. Drenched in sweat.
Exactly.
And if you're like me, you probably tripped in the parking lot. I've done that before. And my books go flying. My cell phone went flying.
Yeah, for sure. It's not
Hot
ideal.
Mess Express over here.
Yeah. And the covered parking, which, is great. That's what you want, the covered and closed parking. Well, it costs an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
So there's so many houses that are around ASU or other private properties nearby that could generate some extra cash by listing, an extra spot on Air Garage. And I know that, students would eat that up. The garages sometimes are, $700 for the year, sometimes more than that per semester. It all depends on where you park. But, if you're charging $100, $200, $300, that's a steal.
It's a discount,
for these students. So it's pretty cool. And we know that parking is a huge topic, right? People are interested in finding solutions to make it better, Air Garage being just one of them. Yeah. So let's dig a little bit deeper into parking and explore the different types of parking investments that are available.
Yeah. So there's a few main ways that people can actually do this. So you can, those individual spots we talked about, they're in high demand urban areas like New York City, San Francisco. Don't ever go to San Francisco and try to find a park. Park
on the hill, turn your wheel.
If you can even find anything, it's horrible. Last time I was there, I was just like, I just want to drive. I just drove an hour to get into the city and I don't even care. I want to drive back home.
Yeah.
Because again, abandoned ship. I don't care. We also have privately owned garages in congested areas. So think popular downtown attractions or restaurants. In fact, when I was reading through our scripts and doing our research, I was talking to my mom about this. And she told me, oh, your stepfather's cousin actually bought land in Galveston, Texas. And I was like, ew. And she goes, no, right by where they dock the cruise ships. And he turned it into a parking, like he leveled it, turned it into a parking structure, and he now makes, a ton of money just using, I was like, oh, that's genius, because no offense to anybody who lives in Galveston. I lived in Houston. I would not want to live down there, especially.
Sure.
But he got a great piece of land, and that's what he did. I think it's
genius.
Great. Then you have commercial lots.
Yep.
Again, this is where this comes from, near stadiums, airports, hospitals, or via syndicates. So those are great ways to make some money. So think about where the Cardinals play. State Farm Stadium. I was just there in Glendale. It was built between 2003 and 2006. You better believe that parking was very, very large up there on the discussion board when they were constructing this stadium. Yeah, at least they have enough there.
Yeah, for sure. It's like build it and they'll come. Yeah, but build it and they'll come if you have a place for them to park.
Yes. I agree. And even then, that stadium is amazing. And the parking lot, there's tons of parking, but it's still a long walk.
Yeah.
It's still a long walk. And after a game, especially if, your team lost, it's not very fun to
walk of shame.
To walk back past everybody. And then lastly, we do have those automated garages and EV integrated lots, which can charge a premium. And they reduce that can help reduce operation costs if you
No parking attendant there.
Nope.
It's all a
Just
robot.
Tap,
that arm.
plug,
It's only
go.
you and the arm.
You don't have to have security. And if you run through that gate, you got a camera.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll get that little bill for that the arm
exactly.
that you damaged.
Yes. So not suggested by us.
Yes, no.
Not sponsored by us. But when it comes to profiting off of parking, here are a few ways that you could get involved. Number one, we always want to say direct ownership, right? And you purchase the land just like your uncle, cousin. Who'd you say?
Stepfather's cousin. So
okay, cool.
Whatever that is in the
Distant family.
There we go.
Whatever. So that person, right, purchased the land and built either the lot or the garage, and they management. Or you could purchase a lot from a seller and management. Either way, you're in charge. It's yours. And as we know, this requires a significant amount of capital up front, certainly in more attractive areas than others. Probably buying a parking garage in downtown Phoenix versus Galveston.
Yeah.
Probably more expensive here. But, it requires that expertise and that time as well. Then there's also REITs. So yes, parking lots are real estate.
Yep.
So you can look for a parking lot REIT to invest in, and you can benefit from more of that hands-off approach. You don't have to be directly involved in the management and just hopefully be, raking in those profits, those returns.
Yeah.
There's also parking joint ventures. So do you have the capital, but you want to leave the managing to the pros? You want to let somebody else who knows what's going on take care of it. Well, you could partner directly with a company that could operate it, and you can benefit from the returns as well, and split the profits there.
Yes.
Then there's also the ground lease model. This is a bit like what we talked about leasing arable land in our farmland episode.
Yeah.
So you can purchase the land, own a piece of the land, and lease it out to a third party who builds and operates the structure.
Got it.
Or you could lease to an existing lot to an operator. So very similar to direct ownership, except for you don't have to do any of it.
Yeah.
You just start collecting the rent.
We like that style for us the most, but
I don't know anything about parking garage, I'll tell you what. So
I can always find my way around a good parking garage.
Sure.
I'm good at that. That's about it.
Great.
So let's discuss some of the benefits to investing in parking. Okay. So we have a consistent cash flow, daily or monthly payments with relatively low upkeep, like we just talked about. There's no toilets, tenants,
Trash.
and well, there's probably trash in it.
There's definitely trash, but not as much as people are living there.
Exactly. Exactly. So she's your very, very low maintenance, easy breezy, beautiful cover girlfriend. So we like this.
Beautiful parking garage.
Yes, exactly. It is an inflation hedge. So parking rates often rise with the local cost of living. Again, I remember when it used to cost like $3 or $4 to park, go to the same parking area, garage, whatever. It's now $10.
Yep.
Probably next year will be $20. And,
It feels
it does. It really does. You also have low tenant management.
Right.
Again, no people living in the space.
Hopefully.
No clock sinks.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get a security guard. Make sure no one tries to post up in your garage. And then we have dynamic pricing. You can benefit from the ability to raise prices on special events. So if you're close to State Farm Stadium out there in Glendale, you want to up your prices just a little bit because there's a special event, go right ahead, my friend.
Yep.
We've got concerts, Comic-Con conferences.
Yeah.
Those are huge. Raise the parking prices to match that demand.
Yeah.
It's simple. And it's similar to what hotels do anyway.
Right.
It's not like you're doing anything that's crazy.
No, it's, hotels know if there's an event going on, they can charge a little bit more because people are trying to get in on the action.
Weekends are more expensive.
Yep.
Holidays. Even Uber does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High demand pricing.
Yep.
That's how it goes.
Everyone's got to leave.
That's right. So in terms of data, a 2021 Parking Today report, bet you didn't know there was a Parking Today, estimated that a well-located surface lot in a major U.S. city could bring in $20,000 to $50,000 in net annual income per 10 spaces. 10 spaces.
That's all you need.
I guess, depending on rates and occupancy. Again, not guaranteed,
Yeah.
but it certainly is an interesting statistic to look at.
Yeah.
But let's pump the brakes for just a moment. Haha. This isn't just a set it and forget it situation. You know, you might think, oh, I got a lot. Woo,
Put
whatever.
some lines down and call it a day.
Yeah, but not quite. As we know, location is key. If a city rezones or reduces the car usage, that can drop the demand, right? Also, there's trends in mobility like ride sharing or self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Think about how many people now with concerts are taking an Uber to that concert because they don't want to find parking.
Exactly.
Me. So, this could reduce long-term need in the end. We're not sure. Obviously, right now, driving is still king, but it seems impossible to imagine at the moment. But our reliance on our own personal vehicles that we own and we drive might dwindle in the coming years.
Yeah.
Things are very slowly starting to arc that way. We'll see what happens. But let's think about a major city like New York.
Yeah.
This is a city where most of the people who live there rely on the public transportation to get around. In fact, it's usually easier to take the train or take a bus than it is to try to get into a cab or call an Uber because the streets are so congested, not just with cars, but with people who are walking, people who are riding their bikes, people who are roller skating.
Yeah, those messenger people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or big delivery trucks that are coming through.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of congestion. Also, the streets are super small.
Yeah.
So most people in New York don't have a car, and therefore they don't need a place to park it.
No.
And new congestion pricing, which we've mentioned here before as well, has also contributed to the lesser amount of cars that are in the city. And again, less cars, less parking. And if these trends are copied into major cities, we could see demand for parking decrease in other areas as well.
Yeah. I had a friend who grew up in like downtown Chicago, and he did not get his driver's license until he was 21. And I was baffled by that because, of course, where I grew up, we can get our permit and drive at 15.
Yeah, and
I was like, as soon as I was 15, I was like, Dad, take me to the DMV. Like, I want to go get my driver's license because I wanted my own car. And because I grew in a small town, like, again, we used to cruise the Sonic, and you were only cool if you had your own car. You can't cruise if you don't have a car,
Right. Well, you can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
More specifically, in Chicago.
I didn't even, like, when he told me the story and he was like, yeah, I didn't get my driver's license until I was 21 years old. And then he still didn't have a car. Funnily enough, he moved out to Arizona and got a car.
Yeah, I need one here.
But I didn't ever really think about that because in my mind, everyone needs a car. But in big cities, it makes sense. So other things we want to, keep in mind with this asset class is liability insurance.
Yep,
okay?
important.
It's still necessary. So things can still happen that you will want to be protected from.
Yeah.
Again,
people can run into your arm.
Your arm, yeah. So or post up in the corner of your garage and make a huge mess, and who knows. So get hurt,
fall off the side. There's all sorts of things that can happen.
Somebody drunk takes a turn too hard. You got to take, you've got to have that insurance. Yeah. So some cities are actually reducing parking minimums to promote walkability.
Okay.
So when a building is constructed, for example, there are often a minimum number of parking spots that a building is required to provide.
Yep.
So, which of course, this obviously makes perfect sense in my brain. If you build a grocery store, you should have enough parking spots for people to visit, right? You can't just like put one in a densely populated area and be like, figure it out.
Right.
And you got 15 bags of groceries, or otherwise you're going to have a lot of your carts being stolen because they're going to take them home.
That's true.
So what ends up happening here is that everything is built in the surrounding by parkings, and then it's actually contributing to further urban sprawl.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you got to have a lot more space, which again widens that city. Suddenly walking from the grocery store to a pet supply next door turns into a full-blown hike if you don't keep them, next to each other.
Yeah.
We're lucky. We've got like 3 really great spots: Whole Foods, Petco, some restaurants, all in walking distance from. So we like walking distance.
Yeah. But even sometimes you look at the map and you're like, oh, the pharmacy is next door. This is great. But then you go outside and you look and suddenly it's like,
you're like
all the way over
you're
there.
Like, well,
yes, it is next door, but you have to, cross.
Get in your car and drive over there.
Yeah, exactly.
So if a city becomes more walkable though, which is kind of what we want to aim for.
Yeah, if you reduce those spots.
Yeah, parking demands will obviously decrease because you can kind of park one spot and wander around. It's better that way.
Yeah.
And with any real estate investment, as we well know, there's property taxes and those fund zoning laws. And those all definitely matter. So property taxes can cut into your overall profit. We have to look at a bunch of that kind of stuff. And property taxes can change. So you want to make sure that after taxes and those fees, that your profit margins are comfortable for you. Because again, sometimes if you build it and you're like, this is amazing. And then they're like, Texas, again, for example, they have no state tax, but the property tax is like 3 times what other states actually charge. So you got to take that into account.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely you do. So if this space,
you're punny today.
I try. My mom would be proud of me. If this interests you, here are a few general tips. Of course, we always say do your homework. You want to look at city growth trends, commuter patterns, and local regulations. Of course, all these things can change, but you want to do as much research as you can. And you also want to consider different platforms. Some online investment groups offer exposure to parking in pre-vetted locations. So that can take a little bit of the guesswork out of it for you. Could be great if you're starting to just kind of get involved, if you want to start exploring the space. And of course, always talk to a licensed professional in this field, a financial advisor, before making any sort of financial decisions. That should just always be your go-to.
That should be your start point, right? So from single spaces to tech-enabled smart garages, parking is proving that even if it's one of probably the most overlooked asset classes, you can generate some real returns with it.
For sure. And again, it might not be glamorous, right?
Yeah.
But for some investors, parking can offer that steady return in cash flow and simplicity in an increasingly complex market, right?
Yeah.
So we hope that you enjoyed this episode today and learned something new, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more insight on our next episode.
And don't forget to subscribe to continue the Alternative Investments chat.
See you next time.
Content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as professional, financial, or investment advice. This podcast should not be construed as an offer to sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy any securities. We strongly recommend that you seek advice from a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.